Welcome back to another episode of the Wednesday Night Mysteries. I'm joined by my co host, Rain. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very well today. Thank you for asking. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk about Brian Shaffer's disappearance. It's honestly one of those cases that I'm generally very interested in, and I can't wait to get into some of the details. I think we have done quite a bit of research and uncovered new angles in this case that I don't hear other podcasts and YouTube videos, for example, like take into consideration.
Yeah, I think so. But before we begin though, what is the special thing about this case? What sets it apart?
It sets it apart because it's such a strange disappearance case. There is a guy who goes missing. He apparently enters a bar, never comes out of the bar once the bar closes, and yeah, it's just a complete mystery. This guy has a pretty interesting backstory that you could look at certain details
Hmm.
and question what may have happened. I mean, I feel like a lot of people do feel like this case is very intriguing.
Very bizarre, right?
Exactly.
Bizarre disappearance.
Yeah. Shall we jump right into it?
Let's go for it.
Let's do this. Okay, so Brian Shaffer, he was a 27-year-old American medical student at the Ohio State University College of Medicine. On the night of March 31st, 2006, Brian went out with friends to celebrate the beginning of spring break. A security camera near the entrance of a bar called the Ugly Tuna Saloona, where Brian was last seen, captured him talking to two women just before 2 a.m. on April 1st. After talking with these women, Brian apparently re entered the Ugly Tuna Saloona. However, the same security camera that captured him walking towards the bar did not capture Brian leaving after the bar had closed shortly after that. Brian has not been seen or heard from ever since then. According to Wikipedia, there was no other publicly available entrance or exit to the bar at that time. This made Brian's disappearance especially puzzling. Brian was supposed to leave for a vacation with his girlfriend, Alexis, to Miami for spring break the following Monday. This was all happening on the night of Friday to Saturday. Some interest and suspicion has been directed at a friend of Brian's who accompanied him that night. This friend was William Florence, otherwise known as Clint for some reason. So Clint has refused to take a polygraph test regarding this incident. That's one of the reasons why people started suspecting that Clint, the guy that hung out with Brian that night, might know more information, and he's not fully transparent. Let's put it that way. Foul play has been suspected in this case, including the possible involvement of the so called smiley face serial killer. It has also been speculated that Brian might still be alive to this day and that he is living somewhere else under a new identity. Really quickly, more information about Brian. Brian was born on February 25th, 1979. He is currently, if he's still alive, at the age of 43. He disappeared when he was 27, just wanted to remind everyone. He is a Caucasian white male standing at 6 foot 2 inches in height. He weighed around 160 to 165 pounds at the time of his disappearance, and his hair color was brown. He had a stick figure tattoo that was artwork for one of his favorite bands, Pearl Jam, one of their songs, artwork. Law enforcement had released recently, I think this was just a handful of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, an updated sketch, an updated image of Brian where he is depicted in his early 40s, how he would look. So we are showing this, I'm pretty sure, on the YouTube channel. By the way, this podcast does have a YouTube channel. Really quickly wanted to mention to our audience members, please go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. It would make us very happy at the Wednesday Night Mysteries. So, Rain, your thoughts about the case initially? Anything that's jumping out to you before we move further into some more interesting details?
Okay, to start things off really light, I really like the Ugly Tuna Saloon name. Pretty clever for a bar. Something that I would really love an establishment to have a name on.
Exactly. No,
Amazing.
I completely agree with you on that one.
Completely clever. And my next thought is Clint. What's up with that guy?
What's up with that guy? Exactly. Why is he so hush hush?
Yeah, but I have a question though.
Okay.
Was he together with Brian for the whole night? He
Yes.
wasn't, right?
He was.
He was?
He was actually, yeah.
For the whole bar hopping night.
Yeah.
But they never separated ways.
No. He literally stayed, as far as I understood, kind of side by side up until the end.
Oh, so he probably knows something.
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, let's jump into some more details, right?
Ooh, 1 second though.
Okay.
Do you think it's a smart idea for him to refuse a polygraph test? Maybe he's protecting himself.
Yeah, that's the thing. Polygraph tests are notoriously inaccurate, and I think most attorneys will advise their clients to probably not take them.
Yeah, it's probably super intimidating to take.
Exactly, and I'm pretty sure he's been interviewed by law enforcement, and he may have told them a set of information on day one, and he didn't want to talk to them again because maybe he left some things out potentially, and he didn't want to bring them up, and now a polygraph could potentially, I
Turn
don't
things
know,
around.
indicate that he's hiding something. I mean, he wouldn't get, put to jail if he failed the polygraph test, but at the same time, I could see his point of view.
Yeah. He's just trying to protect himself. Maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah, we could talk about it more later, I guess.
I think so, since we are going to jump to the details of the disappearance. So, really quickly, I want to go over the night that led to his disappearance. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself. Quickly, I want to go through his background as well. Brian Shaffer was the eldest of two sons to Randy and Renee Shaffer. He had a younger brother named Derek Shaffer. Brian had graduated from high school in 1997 and went to Ohio State University for his undergraduate work. 6 years later, he graduated with a degree in microbiology. Following that, Brian began studying at the OSU, the same Ohio State University College of Medicine, in 2004. During his second year there, in March of 2006, 2 years into his studies, his mother died of myelodysplasia, right? Myelodysplasia syndrome. This is a syndrome. It's a rare group of cancers in which immature blood cells in the bone marrow do not mature or become healthy blood cells. In comparison to a healthy person, the bone marrow makes blood stem cells, immature cells that become mature blood cells over time. So Brian's friends said that although he appeared to be handling the loss of his mother well, his mother's death was hard on him. Sometime during his time at medical school, Brian had become romantically involved with another medical student named Alexis Wagonier. Alexis, along with both of their families and friends, believed that Brian would be probably proposing marriage to her later in 2006. I'm not sure why I'm saying 26. Most likely on a trip to Miami that the couple had planned for their spring break at the beginning of April. Now, however, a couple of days before Brian had disappeared, he had told Alexis to move on and find someone else. That was pretty strange because this information is not on Wikipedia, but other sources are saying that there has been some sort of friction between them before he vanished. Also, it's worth mentioning that this trip to Miami that Brian missed because he disappeared was a gift from Brian's mother that she had given the couple on the previous Christmas. Lastly, I would like to mention that it's said that tropical locations such as Miami were attractive to Brian. He liked the relaxed lifestyles. He told his friends that despite his decision to pursue a medical career, his real ambition was to start a band and start singing, I guess. That's his background. Anything you would like to touch upon?
It's probably a hard decision to continue to a medical career when you really just wanted to sing and probably establish a band somewhere in the tropics. It's so different from like the hard pressured you're always constantly under pressure when you take up medicine and you become a doctor. It's like two different worlds.
Two different roles. Maybe
Yeah.
he was playing it safe, you know?
Yeah.
Playing it safe, I mean, it's a safe career.
It's also a very complicated career though.
Very complicated.
Yeah, so it's so different from what he really wanted. So do you think he was miserable?
I'm not sure because, once again, we haven't known the guy personally, so it's hard to see how badly he wanted to start a band. I mean, if he was really that into starting a band, he would have started it.
That is true.
Perhaps he kind of wanted it.
Like a far-flung dream.
Yeah.
Something he would pursue when he's older. Or
Older, yeah, not necessarily right now, you know.
something. That is true. And can we talk about how his mother died of cancer?
Of
Because
course.
I feel like that would highly impact an individual.
I mean, it would
Definitely.
impact me. I'm pretty sure it would impact you like crazy.
Like crazy, yeah. So do you think during the night of his disappearance, is there a possibility that he may or may not have been depressed?
I think he was definitely still affected. I mean, this happened 3 weeks prior.
So you might have been depressed. Do you think suicide might be one of the
Of course, it's definitely a consideration that we'll,
touch upon?
touch upon in a little bit. Another thing is that apparently he was late to his mother's funeral by 1 hour.
How is that? Why?
Because apparently the explanation was that he was distraught.
That explains it.
It's crazy, right?
And one more thing we have to talk about though
Yeah.
is the Miami trip.
Of course.
Yeah, because okay, so your mom gave you a gift to go to Miami, a tropical place that you always wanted to go to. Would you ever miss it?
It's hard to miss it.
Definitely, right?
It's hard to miss it, but maybe it's connected to the person that I'm going to Miami with. If I was Brian, if it was just a boys out weekend with Clint to Miami, perhaps he would have gone. But now that you brought this up, I'm kind of thinking that maybe there was something regarding Alexis Wagoneer, his girlfriend, that had to do with him missing this Miami trip, you know?
Yeah, but would you really miss it knowing that your mom gave it to you as a gift? As a
Yeah,
last gift?
I think so, because let's remember that Brian, 2 days prior to his disappearance, told Alexis to move on and find someone else. You don't say that to someone that you're going to be proposing on a Miami trip.
Yeah, that is true.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you are supposed to go on a very fun vacation trip in a couple of days, but you just tell them, move on, find someone else, are you still that keen on going there? Miami is great, but it's not going anywhere. You could go to Miami next year with your boys or something like that.
That is true. That is true. But maybe the situation has been already affecting his mental health. Like maybe he was already depressed, he was sad, his mother just recently died. Maybe he said that to Alexis, his girlfriend, because he was not as happy anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things that we don't know as kind of bystanders. I feel like people in his life know more or have a better gauge.
Yeah.
We can only speculate. Shall we move into the disappearance?
Yes, let's go, please.
All right, so let's start with March 31st, which was the Friday when it all happened. So classes at OSU, Ohio State University, ended for a spring break the next week. Brian and his father Randy had celebrated by going out for a steak dinner together earlier that same evening. Now, Randy Shaffer, his father, noted that his son Brian seemed exhausted from having pulled all nighters earlier in the week, cramming for some important upcoming exams. He did not think that Brian should go out with friend William Clint Florence later that night, as he had planned to do, but he did not express his reservations to his son. Now at 9 p.m., Brian met with his friend Clint at the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a bar in the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street in Columbus, Ohio. An hour later, Brian had called his girlfriend Alexis Wagoneer, who at this time had returned to her hometown in Toledo, Ohio, to visit with her family before she and Brian were due to depart for Miami that upcoming Monday. Let's remember that this was Friday evening that this was happening. Now, during this call with Alexis, Brian confirmed their plans to travel to Miami. I think this is very important. This was regarding their vacation to Miami. Now, Alexis had stated that the phone conversation was normal and that Brian ends the call saying that he loves her. This is important. Brian and Clint then proceeded to go bar hopping, visiting several other bars and working their way down to the Arena District in Columbus. According to Clint, at each stop at each bar, they both had one shot of hard liquor. After midnight, Brian and Clint met with Clint's friend, a woman named Meredith Reed, in the Short North. Now, the Short North is just a neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, centered on the main strip of High Street immediately north of the Arena District. This woman, Meredith Reed, that I don't have a lot of information on, gave them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna Saloon where they had started their night and then joined them for the last round. Now, this is interesting to me because Meredith Reed is driving. Is she allowed to drink at the bar? I'm not sure.
Definitely not. In my opinion, she shouldn't be drinking at all.
I mean, maybe it's one shot or something like that, but still, I mean, have you found anything on this woman, Meredith Reed?
No, not at all.
Not at all. The only thing I found about her is that she was apparently more cooperative with law enforcement than Clint.
I see.
Yeah, because she did the polygraph test
Oh, that's good.
and she passed. So she didn't know anything. It seems that she didn't know anything. Okay, let's move on. Shortly before the bar closed at 2 a.m., let's remember this 2 a.m., it's an important timestamp. The Ugly Tuna Saloon closed on 2 a.m. that Friday. Brian had separated from Clint and Meredith. At one point, he told Clint that he was going to go up to the stage area because there was a live band performing that night at the Ugly Tuna Saloon. Shortly after, Clint and Meredith actually attempted to find Brian because let's remember he had separated that from them shortly before the closing of the bar. But the timeline is a bit choppy here, and I think we'll touch upon it in a bit. Now, Clint and Meredith left when the bar closed at 2 a.m. They waited outside of the bar for Brian, but Brian was not among the departing crowd of people leaving the bar. So they both assumed that Brian had gone back to his apartment without letting them know. This is probable in their opinion because Brian lived only a couple of blocks away from the Ugly Tuna Saloon. I think it would be like a 10-minute walk for him to go back home. Alexis Wagoneer and Brian's father Randy tried getting a hold of him during that weekend, but he did not answer his phone. Now, on Monday morning, Brian missed the flight to Miami that he and Alexis had scheduled long before. He then was reported missing to Columbus police.
So you mentioned that they took a shot for every bar they visited, right?
Yes.
Do you have any particular number on how many bars they visited? Because for example, we take a shot for each bar, and we went to 10 bars. So that's 10 shots for the end of the night. Do you think they're buzzed or they're drunk?
That's a very relevant question. I don't have the exact number, but I've seen this video on YouTube that was produced by Blame It on Jorge. I think that's the YouTube channel. And he kind of had a list. I think it was no more than 5.
So that's 5 shots.
5 shots.
I would be pretty drunk by then. Wouldn't you?
Probably not super drunk. If it's
Buzzed?
Yeah, because if it's 5 or 6, let's say, shots, and I'm a 6'2" guy, and these shots are being taken in a time frame of 2-3 hours,
It wouldn't be as bad.
I wouldn't be as bad. I would definitely be tipsy, that's for sure, but I wouldn't be out of control drunk. No way, unless we don't really know the amount of alcohol that he was consuming. Maybe it was more than 1 shot. That's what Clint said. And Clint is the one who is allegedly not disclosing information. So maybe they have been taking a lot more shots. Potentially taking drugs as well. I mean, let's bring it up. Do we know for a fact that in the Arena district they didn't take some drugs? I mean, maybe this could be one of the reasons why potentially, when you think about it, Clint is being silent because maybe sometime during the bar hopping trip, maybe they did take some illegal drugs. And now at this point, Clint
doesn't want the police to know about it.
Not necessarily police. I don't think he would get into trouble for taking illegal drugs, not anything crazy. He doesn't want that to be in his file. Let's put it this way. He doesn't want that on record because he still has to live his life. He still has to get a job and work and do things like that. He doesn't want that him taking illegal drugs to be on Wikipedia. Let's put it this way. He doesn't want that. You know what I mean? It's bad enough that they have been bar hopping and it's already not super great on your resume. So, and let's think about it from this perspective that I'm not sure, I don't have much information about Clint Florence, but I know that Brian was a medical student. And do you really want that kind of information as a potential doctor? What if Clint was actually a medical student as well, and he had aspirations of becoming a doctor? Would you really want to have a Wikipedia page stating that you had been taking illegal drugs during your study times?
No.
What kind of reputation would you have as a doctor at that point?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to tarnish my reputation if I was him.
Exactly. I think we delved into other things here.
Yeah.
But I think you wanted to talk a little bit about the Miami trip, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because initially when we were talking about it, it seems like Brian wouldn't go. He was talking to Alexis about the rocky relationship, and he was talking about how she should find another person, find another guy, and it seemed like he wouldn't go in general. But on the phone call, when they talked, the last phone call that he had with Alexis, it seemed like he would, 100%, right?
Exactly. So it's hard to say what's happening there. Because once more, this information is not on Wikipedia. They don't say this at all. I don't think they touch upon the fact that Brian told Alexis that she should find someone else just 2 days prior to him disappearing. This is not mentioned on the Wikipedia, so maybe this is something that's not that important in this case. Maybe this is just a red herring in the case. But then again, I think something like that is fairly important, in my personal
Yeah, it
opinion.
is.
How do you say to someone, find someone else, and then what, 5 days later you're expected to propose? That's weird.
Yeah, but it's also a good idea to take note that he confirmed the trip to Miami, right?
Yes,
So he would definitely go. He would show up for it,
apparently.
but he never did.
He never did. He never did.
Bizarre.
Bizarre. Let's jump into the investigation part of this case, if you're okay with that.
Yes, let's go for it.
Alright, so investigators obviously started their search at the Ugly Tuna Saloon. The bar had installed security cameras because the area around South Campus Gateway had a relatively high crime rate. Very important, in my opinion. Investigators reviewed the footage from the bar, which showed Brian, Clint, and Meredith going up an escalator to the bar's main entrance at 1:15 a.m. We have this footage. I'm pretty certain we're showing it right now on the YouTube channel as well. You could find it if you just find Wednesday Night Mysteries on YouTube. Now, the same camera had captured Brian standing outside of the bar around 1:55 a.m. that evening. This was around 40 minutes later, talking briefly with two young women, Amber Ruick and Brighton Zatko. According to some sources, Clint was the one speaking with Amber while Brian spoke to Brighton. Apparently, Brian was pretty flirty with Brighton. He had even kissed Brighton's neck at one point. Now, at around 1:57 a.m., 3 minutes before the Ugly Tuna Saloon closed, Brighton had put her number in Brian's phone. She then walked inside the Ugly Tuna Saloon to use the restroom. When she returned, Brian was nowhere to be found. The CCTV camera did not record Brian leaving the bar after Ugly Tuna Saloon had closed. That was the last time he was ever seen. Brian could have potentially changed his clothes in the bar or put on a hat and kept his head down, hiding his face from the camera. Now, the cameras might also have missed Brian. Apparently, there were two cameras. One was panned across the area constantly, and the other one was operated manually, like a guy was kind of controlling it. Brian might have also left the building by another route. However, the building's only other exit was a service door, not generally used by the public. That door opened onto a construction site that police officers believed would have been difficult to walk through while sober, and Brian was most likely intoxicated at this time. Columbus has the most security cameras of any city in Ohio, more than Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Toledo combined. Officers next looked at the footage from other bars to see if cameras there could have explained how Brian had left Ugly Tuna Saloon. However, footage from cameras at 3 other nearby bars showed no trace of Brian. The search began to fan out from the Ugly Tuna Saloon shortly after that, with officers, sometimes accompanied by police dogs, looking closely in the street, inspecting dumpsters and other waste containers, and asking residents if they had seen Brian. Flyers with Brian's characteristics were posted widely. Brian had a tattoo on his upper right arm of a stick figure logo from the cover artwork from the single Alive by Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam was one of Brian's favorite bands. Police even persuaded the city of Columbus to let them into the sewer system and search there. However, no useful information was uncovered. At Brian's apartment on King Avenue, once again, this is just 6 blocks away from Ugly Tuna Saloon, Brian's car was still parked outside. Inside of his apartment, nothing appeared to be missing. After searching in every direction away from the Ugly Tuna Saloon, police began to consider other possibilities besides an accident or foul play. Since Brian's mother had recently died, it was speculated that Brian had gone away temporarily to grieve in solitude. Those who had seen Brian that evening, including his father, Randy, were asked to take lie detector tests. Randy Shaffer and Meredith Reed passed their lie detector tests, as did reportedly all the others who were asked to do so. However, Clint was the only person to refuse to take the lie detector test. The two women Brian had last been seen talking to were later identified. They said in a 2009 interview that they had never been asked to take lie detector tests. For a long time after Brian had vanished, his girlfriend Alexis called his phone every night, every evening before going to bed. Usually it went straight to voicemail, but there was one night in September of the same year that it actually rang 3 times. Brian's cell phone provider said that this may have been a glitch caused by some sort of a computer malfunction. A ping from the phone was detected at a cell tower in a town named Hilliard, which was 14 miles northwest of Columbus. Now, lastly, I would like to mention that police received many tips, none of which resulted in any breakthroughs. Possible sightings in Michigan, Texas, and even Sweden were investigated. Randy Shaffer, Brian's father, continued the search for his son on his own. A psychic he consulted actually told him that Brian's body was in the water near a bridge pier. He and Derek, Brian's younger brother, along with some other citizens who had become interested in this case, brought out waders and spent much of their free time along the shores of the Olentangy River, which actually flows through Columbus, adjacent to the OSU campus. However, nobody has ever discovered. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, and anything you want to kind of take a closer look to any of these details?
Well, right now, I just want to say that it started off as a regular boys' night out, and it's so sad how it ended so tragically. But seriously, you were telling us about how they started bar hopping, and then they went in several bars, and then they ended up at Ugly Tuna Saluna, and they flirted with some girls. It's a red flag, but still, seems like a pretty regular boys' night out.
I would like to say that the fact that he talked to Brighton, the girl, and then she gave his number. She gave him her number, and also he kissed her on the neck. That kind of makes me think that Brian is not himself anymore.
Yeah.
He called Alexis at 10.
Just before that?
Just before that, close to 4 hours later, he's talking to some other girls. He's flirty, getting their phone numbers. It's almost like he's not in his right mind.
Yeah, I think so. That's actually a good point, but maybe he's intoxicated. High?
I'm still thinking about those drugs. Like, is he on something that only Clint knows that he's on? Is he on something like some sort of a crazy drug that could have potentially even caused his downfall? Once again, does Clint know more about this?
I don't think we'll ever know though.
But as we speak, I'm getting more and more suspicious of Clint. I'm not gonna lie. Like, as we go over the case, and I'm thinking right now, I'm starting to think about it more. I mean, I'm starting to wonder, what does Clint know?
I think he knows something, but I don't necessarily think he's a main suspect.
No, I don't think he caused Brian
The
to die.
disappearance, yeah.
I think it's, at least for me, it's pretty obvious that Clint is not someone who directly was
Would
involved.
harm someone, yeah.
But I think he was connected indirectly.
In a way.
Could he have potentially offered him some drugs?
Or met up with someone together with Brian.
And got drugs.
Got drugs, and maybe that was their downfall.
Exactly, because let's remember what kind of an occasion this was. Spring break was about to happen. They literally finished their first semester. Kind of like you a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing. it's a big celebration, right? It's a big occasion, and you don't have anything to do on Monday. The only thing you have to do on Monday is go catch a flight with your girlfriend to Miami.
Yeah.
So you're relaxing on a Friday. You're going downtown, Columbus, Arena District. You're with a friend. You're like, let's try some ecstasy. Let's try some acid. Let's try some stuff. You get it, and then later in the night, you're starting to get woozy.
Yeah.
You're not yourself anymore. You forget about your girlfriend. You talk with random girls. You're just relaxed. And
What happened after?
what happened after? Let's jump into some more information, some more details. Unless you would like to touch upon anything else in the investigation section.
Well, just really quickly, I just wanted to, like, think about it this way. The temperature in Ohio on March and April. Now, I'm not really sure. I didn't look into it that much back in 2006. But is there probably a possibility of Brian, like, putting a jacket on or a hoodie? Because it might have gotten colder. But on the CCTV footages, it doesn't seem like he was carrying something like...
On the
like a
CCTV,
jacket.
because we are looking at it right now, it looks like he's wearing
A shirt.
a shirt, like a green shirt. And I don't see a jacket anywhere near.
Yeah, so we could rule out that possibility, because where would he get the extra clothes?
Where would he get the extra clothes? And I think, we're gonna jump into some other details, but I think it's been mentioned that law enforcement said they're 100% certain he did not walk out in through the main exit.
Oh.
So I feel like all of these questions were probably addressed by law enforcement. Close to 2 years after Brian Shaffer had disappeared in September of 2008 during a heavy windstorm, Randy Shaffer was out in the yard of his Baltimore home clearing debris. A branch flew off from a nearby tree and fatally struck him. Neighbors found his body the next morning and called the police. Now, after Randy's death, after Brian's father had died, an obituary ran online. A condolence book was posted. One of the signatures in that book online said, "To Dad, love Brian," and then it stated that this person is texting them from US Virgin Islands. This potentially suggested to investigators that Brian had left Columbus to start a new life elsewhere. However, upon further investigation, the note was found to have been posted from a computer accessible to the public in Franklin County. It was determined to be a hoax. Brian Shaffer had a tragic end of his life, I would say. Loses his wife. Randy Shaffer. Loses his wife. 3 weeks later, loses his son. 2 years later, dies in a freak accident. It's a terrible end to his life.
I feel even worse for Derek, though. He's all alone now.
He's all alone. Yeah, it's terrible. Now, shortly after Randy had passed away, Neil Rosenberg, Clint's attorney, claimed that he had learned that the Columbus police investigating the case believed that Brian Shaffer was still alive. However, those close to Brian did not believe that Brian was alive anymore, and they had criticized Clint for not providing more information. Brian's younger brother Derek and his former girlfriend Alexis believe that Clint knows more than what he has shared with investigators. That's very important. And then lastly, I would like to say that one of the original investigators, named Andrea Edwards, told the media that after extensive review of the camera footage at the Ugly Tuna Saloon from the night that Brian had disappeared on, which was intended to rule out the idea that he could have left in a disguise, he could say with 100% certainty that Brian Shaffer did not leave via that escalator. Once again, this answers your question that, they determined that he could not have left in a disguise. let alone in a simple jacket.
That is. Okay, that makes a lot of sense now. But can we talk about, really quickly,
Yeah.
the obituary, the comment left there? Like,
Okay.
how cruel is it to, like, prank a grieving family? That's just the most cruel thing you could do.
It's a cruel thing, but I feel like it's something so simple. Just leaving a comment, it's pretty easy, and I could see how someone would do it. It's a simple, it's a cruel but very simply executable prank. I mean, you just go to a library and you just leave that comment there.
Why prank grieving people, though? That's, like, my main question. It's.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for you to understand because you would not
Do you
do
think a
it.
kid would do it?
Of course. Of course. I mean, you as an adult, you would never do this, right?
Because you know how it would feel.
Exactly. But
As a kid, it would be funny.
you're a teenager, you're just kind of go in, leave it, see what happens.
Yeah.
It's not,
Cause a stare.
yeah. And so yeah, we literally went through our notes, and I'm looking at the time. We're 40 minutes into the podcast, so I think it's a good time for us to jump to the questions, right? Because before we move into the theories, let's jump into some of the questions that we have, and let's just go over them. So my first question that I have regarding this disappearance case was, does Brian look like he is about to start a new life or potentially commit suicide from the CCTV footage? Because those two pieces of publicly available CCTV footage is the only CCTV that we have. Now, when you take a look at them, and we have them in the notes as well, does Brian look strange or someone who would commit suicide? What do you think? When you look at the footage, what do you think?
Just looking at the footage and not knowing the whole background on it,
Yeah.
he looks like a regular guy having fun, having a night out, doing, like, drinking, doing fun stuff. He looks like a pretty regular dude.
Exactly. So that's
Nothing out of the ordinary.
my thoughts completely are the same. I don't think he looks like he's about to.
Kill himself or disappear or start a new life.
Does look a little tipsy at
Yeah.
times. As he's moving up the escalator, he kind of looks like I could see that him being a little.
A guy having a good time, a bit intoxicated, maybe high.
Exactly. Another question I have is, did Brian really re-enter the bar? Could he have just walked out of the mall undetected? Now, this is relevant if we would look at the second CCTV footage. Brian is seen kind of talking to these two girls, and then he moves away from the camera angle. But he doesn't necessarily move away in the direction of the Ugly Tuna Saloon. He kind of moves away in the direction, I would say, of the service door more than anything, right?
Yeah.
And that's literally the only CCTV footage. I think that's why people assume that he went back to the Ugly Tuna Saloon, because he kind of got out of the shot of the camera and he was never seen on that camera, on that angle ever again. But once again, behind that camera, there are two exits. Well, let's see, two doors. One door goes to the Ugly Tuna Saloon, the other goes to the service door. Could he have just went to the service door? And was the service door locked or unlocked? Because the way it has been described online, it was said that it was not usually used by the public. Now, this kind of tells me that it was probably unlocked.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was unlocked with just a sign that it's only for authorized personnel,
Exactly.
not for public use.
Exactly. And this leads into the second question. Why was Brian flirty with Brighton Zatko?
That's a really good question. What do you think? Was he
Yeah.
high, drunk, or was he just generally feeling flirty that whole night?
I mean, there could only be two explanations, I think. One is that he's not himself anymore, and another one is that he's not really into Alexis as much as everyone thinks he's into Alexis. I think, I mean, I could see it going both ways, because just
me
2 days
too.
prior, he said find someone else to Alexis Wagoneer. But also on the same day when he disappeared, he had called her and confirmed everything. So, I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard. Looking from the outside, I think we can just speculate at this point.
Definitely.
I mean, any thoughts about it?
Oh, well, it seems like they had a rocky relationship, but then as we progress and we learn more, it seems like it's a pretty stable relationship. So it's kind of contradicting. We'll never know for sure, but it seemed like Alexis really loved him,
Yeah,
right?
I think so. All of those calls when he went missing every night.
So at this point, you're right, we could only just speculate.
Exactly. Another question would be, why did Clint refuse to take a lie detector test? And I think I've touched upon this already. I think there's a good chance that him fearing for his future did not want to go even deeper because it already looks bad.
Yeah.
You already have been drinking all night with a guy who went missing.
It's pretty bad.
It's already bad. And I mean, you don't want to make it any worse.
You don't want to tarnish your reputation even further.
And that tells me that he probably knows something relevant.
Yeah, but he would rather keep it in and keep the good reputation, I think.
Perhaps. Okay, another question was that how is the smiley face killer theory even connected to this case? Was there a smiley face graffiti found on the ground? Now, this might be confusing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what the smiley face killer theory even is?
Of course. So, for those who didn't know, between the year 1997 and 2008, corpses of nearly 50 men were pulled out from different bodies of water. And the term smiley face became connected to these alleged murders when it was made public that the police has discovered a smiley face graffiti near the locations where they found the bodies. But up until now, there aren't any evidence to support this case.
That the smiley face killer even exists.
We're not completely sure. There aren't any concrete evidence. And come on, smiley face graffitis are like pretty common graffiti, probably the most common graffiti ever.
We saw one on the ground
While we were walking.
today.
Yeah.
It was a blue smiley face on the ground.
Yep.
I mean, if we found a dead guy next to a puddle,
Would it be connected to the smiley face murders?
probably
Or-
the same guy who killed Brian Shaffer at that point.
Yeah.
But on some serious note, I don't know how this is even relevant because neither a body was found nor a graffiti was found. And sure, there was an Olentangy River kinda a couple of kilometers away. So, I mean, I don't really see how it connects, right? I mean, I would say it's highly, highly unlikely.
Yeah, I think so too. And we also have to remember that smiley faces are everywhere.
Literally everywhere. It's
Yeah.
like the easiest graffiti to make, right?
I can
Everyone
make it, you can make it.
Everyone can make it. And I think you have a question, the last question, number 6, regarding the fire exit.
Oh, yeah. My question is there supposed to be a fire exit somewhere there? Because remember, Ugly Tuna Saloon is located on the second floor and it's a bar. So, if Ugly Tuna Saloon did indeed only has one functional door, wouldn't that be a violation of the safety and the fire code?
I think you have a very good point. But I think it was mentioned somewhere, I read, that there was apparently a staff door within Ugly Tuna Saloon. I know this is complicated because now we have another door kind of appearing in the storyline. So I don't know how to answer that question. It's very vague, the information that we have about all of these doors. Apparently, there's more doors than it's been stated. You know, there's a service door, there's, I think, a staff door in the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a fire exit. I mean,
It's a necessary door to have in your establishment because if there's only one functional door and let's say a fire started inside a bar and people come running to the only functional door, there would be cramped and a lot of people will die. So you really need a safety fire exit.
Exactly. No, that's a very good point. I never thought about it, and we don't have any information, unfortunately.
I guess
And
I guess we have to
sorry.
go there. I'm sorry. Just
Yeah,
really quickly. I guess we have to go there to investigate.
we can't because Ugly Tuna Saluna has closed down.
Oh no.
I think from the Google Street Views, we can see that back in 2017, it was still there, but I think it closed like 2019. There's a bar called Ugly Tuna Saluna 2, close by, a few blocks away. There's, I think, maybe the same owners. They called it Ugly Tuna Saluna 2. It's
I
no
wouldn't
longer.
want to get rid of that name either.
I mean, me neither, right? But a lot has changed because currently I don't think even the patio exists and things of that nature. So the area has seen a lot of development. We're gonna talk about a few of these interesting development details that I don't see anyone else actually talk about. But I think this is a great time to jump into the theories. Let's do the theories. Do you wanna go over a little bit?
Of course, we can start with the first theory that Brian somehow went out undetected through the service door or to the door leading to a construction site, met with a foul play, and his body was disposed of. Now, before we talk about the second part, we could talk about the first part first, wherein is there a service door and a different door that leads to a construction site, or are they a similar door?
I think it's the same door.
Same door.
I think the same door that leads, the same service door
Leads to the construction
leads
site.
to the construction site.
So what do you think about this theory then? He went out through the service door and he maybe got into a fight in there, got mugged, or met with a foul play.
Accident.
Yeah, accident, and his body was disposed of.
I think it's very likely. I'm gonna straight up tell you this is my number one theory. I think it's very likely. And now, remember you told me about that there were sniffer dogs and they picked up his scent to Wendy's.
Yeah, so I haven't really seen like a concrete research about it, but I did read on Reddit that apparently sniffer dogs picked up Brian's scent up to the Wendy's parking lot and disappeared. So apparently his trace disappeared on Wendy's parking lot, as if he went and got into a car and drove out.
Now, really quickly, this mall, the Southway Gateway Complex or whatever, that door, that service door that Ryan could have potentially taken, it would have led out through the back side of that Gateway Complex, and now that's the same direction where the Wendy's restaurant is. So from the logistical standpoint, it makes sense that the dogs picked up his scent if he did walk out of the service door. So in my opinion, this is just another kind of pro to this theory that there is a chance he left. Because if you would go to the Google Maps right now, you could not find this Wendy's restaurant because it has been built on over it. There has a new big building was built on top of it. But if you would go back to Google Earth and go back to like a Google Maps from, let's say, 2008 or 2006 or 2007, you will see that Wendy's restaurant is still there. So I'm just saying this because some people might not really understand where this Wendy's is, but this Wendy's restaurant is in the same direction that Brian would have been walking if he exited through that service door. So it makes sense. And also it's been stated that there has been a lot of, let's say, muggings in the general location.
A high crime rate.
Crime rate. So, I mean, could have something happen to Brian at that Wendy's, close to the Wendy's. He got mugged. hit and run potential accident. The driver put the body in the trunk, drove away, but no blood residue found. So once again, did they clean up the scene? Is there any blood residue? A lot of different questions in my mind, but I don't think we'll
More
have
questions than answers.
More questions than answers, but good questions.
Yeah.
And questions leading us to a certain conclusion. Nevertheless, shall we move to some more theories?
Of course, the second theory that we have is that Brian might have been so intoxicated or high and somehow slipped undetected towards the construction site and might have slipped and fell.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I think it's pretty much the same as theory number one. It's kind of it's it's the different outcome, but kind of similar explanation why he was not captured leaving the bar, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very likely. Let's remember that law enforcement has said that it would be difficult to navigate that construction site if you're sober. But let's remember, this is 2 a.m. It's really dark.
Yeah.
It's really dark. Brian is acting weird. He's not himself, talking with girls, getting phone numbers, kissing them on the neck when he's already kind of supposed to go on almost like a trip to propose to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
He's already acting weird. And it's 2 a.m. It's dark. It's, it's a weird little territory. A lot of, you have to watch your step. Brian doesn't even look like he's watching his steps in the CCTV.
Not
he's
at all.
kind of very relaxed. He's not.
Happy dandy.
He's happy dandy. Him stepping somewhere and falling down, very likely, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that raises also the question of why didn't anyone see him? The police, the investigators, if he is indeed in that construction site, wouldn't have the police probably
Construction
found him?
workers?
Construction workers, sniffer dogs.
I mean, that's a very good question. So this would make us think that either there is some sort of a hole in that construction site where you would fall down,
And then get buried.
or even a more unlikely theory that construction management was like, let's get rid of the body.
Ooh.
Because we probably were not.
We don't want lawsuits.
We don't want lawsuits. We left this place open, the premises accessible by the public. Someone died. It's our fault. We didn't leave necessary security things. I could see management doing that. I'm not gonna lie. I could see management doing that, but also it's I think it's unlikely. I think if you're a manager at the company, you just come clean.
Yeah.
I mean, the risk of covering up a dead body is just something you don't want to do, because you know that law enforcement is going to be literally walking down that area back and forth. And let's remember that his body was discovered, well, sorry, not his body, but he has been reported missing on Monday. And this was the weekend. Are they really even working on the weekend?
That's
and
a
they
good
only
point.
have 2 days to hide the body. Are they really hiding the body?
Yeah.
They only have 2 days to work anyways. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I feel like if it was a Tuesday and
It's a work day.
and he's reported on a Monday, they have the whole week. But this was a weekend. They literally only have a day or two to hide his body. No one's trying to do that on a weekend. You call the cops, you come clean, right?
Yeah, that is true. A very good point. Okay, so going to the third theory, Brian disappeared on his own volition and started a new life. Okay, just remember, he really just wanted a bar in a tropical country where he would sing and start a band. He was probably depressed, maybe, who knows. He started his own life. He was like, okay, screw everything else. I'm going to the tropics. I'm gonna have fun with my life.
I can see this as a viable theory, but I think it's not likely,
Highly unlikely. Yeah.
because Brian is a very
Responsible guy?
his face is everywhere.
Yeah.
This is a very famous case. Now, for him to stay invisible all these years,
And he didn't take anything, right?
No, nothing.
Not his car, not his stuff, not any clothes.
No. And his recent actions did not indicate that he
Yeah.
was leaving. He was, having an everyday lunch with Randy, his father. He was gonna go on a flight to Miami. He was having fun
He
with
had
Clint.
plans.
He had plans. He talked about those plans with his family. I don't think so. I don't think he's. I frankly don't see it. The only thing that connects this is that he apparently expressed his interests in starting a band. But that's it. That's all we have. We don't really have anything else.
Yeah, plus apparently there isn't any movement in his bank account, so why would you want to leave your life with nothing? Basically nothing.
Yeah, and like completely start with nothing. No, it's not realistic,
Yeah.
in my opinion, of course.
Okay, so jumping to the fourth theory, Brian never left the bar. He died inside, and his remains are still there. This is a morbid theory.
A morbid theory. Okay, where is his body though? In that bar, in the Ugly Tuna Saloon.
Underground, in a secret room.
Yeah, but
It's pretty tough to hide.
so wait, are you saying that the management is keeping his body like he was Lenin or something like that on display?
Well, maybe he got into a fight, he died, the management's like, oh, we don't want to deal with lawsuits.
Right.
Will we dig up a hole underground, throw them there?
Well, it's pretty hard to dig up a hole underground
Yeah.
when you're on
In
the
2 days.
No, especially when you're on
second floor.
on the second floor. I feel like 2 days is the easy part about this. Digging underground on the second floor, I think
2
is
days.
in 2 days. I think that's even harder, if you know what I mean. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is very unlikely. I mean, once again, maybe there's I don't know, like a secret door, and no one knows about it, and Brian is stuck somewhere. It's a weird one.
Or maybe using the service door, he was thrown on like a garbage chute or a dumpster.
I think it's likely. I think the dumpster.
Out of the three, that is the
Yeah,
most.
I feel like
likely
it's
one.
unlikely that he's in Ugly Tuna Saloon.
Yeah.
I think it's likely that he could have died somewhere in the construction site. I don't see how he's dead in Ugly Tuna Saloon, though.
Maybe the staff picked up his body and
No,
threw him somewhere.
no, these people are not getting paid enough
Yeah.
to hide bodies. Trust me. If you know what I mean. Okay.
I wouldn't do that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fifth theory. The staff disposed of Brian's body. He might have died inside a bar. The management were worried about the lawsuits, so they snuck him out and disposed of his body. We already talked about
we
this.
talked about it.
Okay, so the sixth and the last theory that we have. He was a victim of the smiley face murders.
Not really.
I think it's very unlikely as well.
Exactly.
Out of all the theories that we have, which one do you think is the most probable one?
Definitely that he left through the service door. Definitely. I mean, we don't see him enter Ugly Tuna Saloon. So definitely leaving through the service door. Now,
Met with a foul play? you
exactly.
think?
I would like to quickly mention something that I would really like to quickly mention the weirdness of the timeline. So, for example, in Wikipedia, it stated that he was last seen talking to two girls at 1:55 a.m. Let's remember, 1:55 a.m. Bar closes at 2 a.m. That's 5 minutes. Now, Clint and Meredith can't find him, and they wait outside of the bar. Now, I don't know if they wait outside of the Southway Gateway complex, outside of that mall, or outside of the bar. I'm not really sure. I would assume that they're waiting outside of the mall, like outside, just waiting for him. Now, the interesting thing for me is that Brian disappeared within 3 minutes. Because let's remember that the time point that I've got from Blame It on Jorge, the YouTube channel that did a great YouTube video on this, said that Brian disappeared. Brian was last seen by that Brighton Zatko girl at 1:57 a.m.
Oh.
The bar closes at 2 a.m. So he managed to disappear in 3 minutes. Now, why I think this is relevant, because let's remember, okay, so he's talking to Brighton Zatko at 1:57 a.m. The bar closes at 2 a.m. So he's talking to Brighton Zatko 3 minutes before the bar closes.
I don't think he went in.
Exactly. Why would you go in when a bar is gonna close in 3 minutes? That's not enough time for you to go grab a shot or anything. Why would you go back inside the bar? He literally probably was, oh, let's look at what's in the service door. Oh, I can get outside through here. Let me see what's in here, and made the wrong step. I mean, I'm just speculating, but that's like what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, and you also have to think about the rush of people going out, because the bar's gonna close at 2, maybe somewhere around 1:57. People are gonna start heading out, exiting the bar.
Yeah, well, why would you go back?
Yeah, so you wouldn't go back, because you know it's about to close.
Exactly. And I'm looking at the pictures that we have in the notes, and we're going to be showing this on the YouTube channel once again. A shameless plug. Please go there, check it out. You can see that the Ugly Tuna Saloon is basically kind of, the entrance door is kind of narrow. You know what I mean? Like, I could see how a rush of people would make it less incentivized for me to go back in the bar.
Yeah.
Like, why would I go back there? And you can see that the service door looks very inviting. The service door is kind of the door in the yellow hallway on the right. That's the service door on the right side, if you can see it. And it looks very inviting. I mean, in that yellow shade, it's probably different now, but yeah, it looks very inviting, to just go there, see what's down there, if it was unlocked.
Or maybe he knew it was another exit, so he was like, I'll just go through this exit to avoid the rush of people.
Go back somewhere, I don't know, easily, right? Before we close off the podcast, because I'm pretty sure you're leaning the same way, right? Or is there any other theory?
Should we mention about the calls from Alexis?
And regarding those calls?
Yeah, so when Brian disappeared for the next few months, Alexis started to leave voice messages on Brian's phone. But then one night or one day
in September, I think we already talked a little bit about it, where in September his phone actually rang 3 times.
Do you think it's a glitch?
I think it's a glitch. I think it makes no sense for his phone to be somewhere 14 miles away randomly in September. I mean, the only explanation I've seen about this is that if it was a mugging or someone else was a hold of his phone, randomly turned it on that one evening and then turned it off again. But why after 5 months in September?
That is true.
It makes no sense. I feel like it's a glitch. I don't put any weight towards it. How about you?
Yeah, you're right. Mugging is like... Yeah, I think it's mugging if that isn't a glitch, but there is a higher chance that it could possibly be just a glitch.
A glitch.
Because of the timeline.
The timeline, yeah, exactly. It doesn't completely add up. The only other thing I remember you talking about was the patio. Do you want to quickly mention what you found?
Of course. So while I was researching about this case, I found a Reddit thread, and there was this one comment. It's quite a long comment, but to summarize everything and to highlight the most important parts, the comment says the patio, while on the second floor, is still a very doable jump. I've seen people drunkenly jump off and get banned. On the comment after that, continuing, I have talked to my friends who bartended at Tuna, and they all think that is most likely what happened. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I definitely think that patio is doable. Now, the Ugly Tuna Saloon had like a outside like patio area, and it wasn't that high up, and you could jump down it. So I could see how Brian could potentially...
Maybe he's too intoxicated or was drunk or he was high. Maybe he exited the bar that way. He thought he could do it.
I mean, maybe if a lot of people were doing it on a regular basis, maybe Brian had done it in the past. Maybe this wouldn't be the first time he had done it. He would just jumped out.
And, well, there might be a lot of people outside as well, but if it's like a normal thing that people do, it's nothing.
Exactly. And Brian was athletic. There's some pictures of him like flexing his muscles. And he's someone who looks, if anyone can do the gym jump, then 6'2" Brian Shaffer at the 160 pounds can do the jump, you know?
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
That's possible. I don't see why not.
Yeah, completely possible. And it wouldn't raise attention if it keeps on happening.
And another thing you mentioned is that if he did the jump, no other CCTV footage was kind of panned on the patio, right?
No camera directly on the patio.
Right. And
Yeah.
But what about the surrounding buildings?
And that's a good question because there wasn't any footage of him at all, right? In the surrounding
No.
buildings. So we're not completely sure about that, but
I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, who
I feel like
knows?
our conclusion would be that Brian somehow exited undetected and then either got into an accident or met with foul play. And one way or another, his body either has never been found or it's been stashed.
yeah.
And I think this is the only explanation. I'm getting a vibe that, yeah, like an accident or a mugging had happened, and that was it. That's it.
The way he exited the bar is still really mysterious, but he somehow did it and he disappeared.
Right. I mean, I think we're pretty much good to wrap it up. This episode. I mean,
What do you guys think about it though?
yeah. Leave your comments in the comment section, and please join us on the next episode. We have something very interesting lined up.
Come check it out and yeah.
See ya, guys.
Have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.